Hi guys, welcome to the channel. Today we will be looking at problem number 1929 from Leetcode, that is concatenation of array. It says, given an integer array nums of length n, you want to create an array, let's say the resultant array of length 2n, where my ith and I plus nth element of my resultant array is equals to the ith element of my nums array, that is the input array. So I lies between 0 to n and n is the length of my input array. So basically it is asking us to concatenate two nums array, and then finally we have to return that concatenated array. Let's look at one of the example. So the first example has an input array which consists elements 1 to 1. So according to the question, the first element of my input array should go to the ith and I plus nth element of my output array. So here 1 will go to the 0th and 0 plus n, that is 0 plus 3. Here n equals to 3. So 0 plus 3, which is equals to 3. 1 will go to 0th and third index of my output array. Similarly for second element, it will go to 1 and 1 plus 3, that is fourth index. So as you can see in the output array, 2 lies at 0th as well as 4th position. Now before jumping into the code, I would highly recommend you to think of a solution. Don't worry about the time and space complexity, just come up with a solution. I might also not come up with the optimal solution, but it is important to come up with a solution. So feel free to pause the video and come up with a solution. I hope you have given some thought around the problem. So let's be clear, we are given an input array and we have to return an output array. So if you are solving this problem in JavaScript, you might have come across the function concatenate, uh, which does nothing but concatenates two arrays. So it takes in arguments array or values and concatenates it to the array that called that function. For example, if I do array dot concat, so the arguments can be one values or it can be another array. So if it's an array, it will extract the values from that array and spread that in the form of a list. So if I use here return array.concat, I want to concat the same array, this would work perfectly fine. So if you run the code, you submit, your all test cases will pass. But for example, let's say someone is solving the problem and he doesn't know the concat function. So what he will do, let's take a look at that. So obviously we have to iterate over our input array. So let me give you a brief introduction about the algorithm that I will be coding here. So I will initialize my resultant array and also initialize my n, that is the length of my input array. Then I will iterate over my input array and copy the ith element of my input array, that is the nums array, to my ith and I plus nth index of my output array. And then finally, I will return the resultant array. So let's start with the code. So as I said, I will initialize my resultant array, that is result equals to an empty array. And then I'll also initialize my n, which is, let's keep the variable names in sync with the question. So that is, let n equals to nums dot length. So I also make it as ens. That's what mentioned in the question. So now I will iterate over my input array, that is nums dot for each. Now I have to take in the value that is num, and I also have to deal with the index. So I'll also mention it. Now I have to copy the value num to ith and I plus nth index of my resultant array. So what I'll do is my resultant array index the value at index position of my, so let me just use some shorter names, that is. So ith value of my resultant array will be equal to my num value, and the I plus nth value of my resultant array will also be equal to my num value. So that's it. Once I return the result, the code will run. Now let's just run the code and check if it's working. Yeah, that's fine. So let me also submit it, then we'll talk about the space and time complexity. Yeah. So if you see the time complexity, I'm using one for each loop, and that's iterating over each element of the nums array. So it's order of n. And if you talk about the space complexity, it's also order of 1. But you'll say how? Line number 6, we are using an extra array. But do notice that the extra array that we are using is actually the output that is required. So that we will not be included in our space complexity calculations. So our time complexity is order of n, and space complexity is also of order 1. It's of constant time. So we are just using an variable n. That's it. So I hope you understood this problem. Uh, the code to this problem is there on my GitHub repo, and the link to it I have provided in the description section of this video. Please feel free to go through the code, and see you next time. And always keep smiling. Bye bye.